He was the quiet kid no one talked to, invisible in the halls, alone at lunch. But the day he helped a biker fix his ride, 200 leather jackets showed up to remind the school exactly who he was. Eli Parker didn't take up much space. He walked with his head down, hoodie up, and always sat in the back of the classroom. Not because he was hiding anything, but because he figured no one would notice either way. At 16, he was the kind of kid teachers forgot to call on. The kind of student whose name never made it on the whiteboard. The kind of teenager who had learned to survive by being small. Lunch? Always in the library. Recess? Tucked behind the gym with his sketchbook or a repair manual. And when he wasn't in school, he was at home with his mom, a waitress who worked double shifts and still found time to check in with a tired smile. They lived in a small duplex on the edge of town. The garage was always cluttered with scrap parts, toolboxes, and old engines that never quite ran, until Eli got to them. That was his world. Engines made sense. They didn't laugh. They didn't shove your books out of your hand in the hallway. And when something was broken, you could fix it. At school, the bullies didn't bother to get creative. One called him Mop Boy because of his hair. Another tossed his tools in the trash once, just for fun. No one ever stood up for him. No one ever asked him if he was okay. He never complained. He just kept moving. Eli wasn't looking for attention. He wasn't looking for trouble. But one late afternoon, on his walk home from school, he spotted something on the side of the road, a sight he couldn't ignore, a huge, gleaming Harley-Davidson, and a man cursing at it, knuckles greasy, leather vest soaked with sweat. Eli paused. One look at the guy told him most people would have crossed the street. But Eli didn't. Instead, he stepped forward. "You stuck." The man looked up, beard, tattoos, tough as steel. But Eli didn't flinch. He just glanced at the engine like it was a puzzle waiting to be solved. The man grunted, wiping oil on his jeans. "Yeah, stupid thing cut out. Starter's fine, but she won't catch." Eli didn't say anything at first, just dropped his backpack, stepped in closer, and crouched down next to the bike. His eyes scanned it quickly. Wiring, battery line, ignition. Something wasn't right. "You mind if I try something?" he asked quietly. The biker raised an eyebrow, smirking. "You fix tricycles or something, kid?" Eli just shrugged. "Small engines. Same rules, different size." The man stepped back. "Go ahead. Ain't like I got better options." Eli's fingers moved fast, confident, precise. He traced a loose ground wire, found corrosion on a connector most people would miss. He unzipped his backpack, pulled out a small multi-tool, and cleaned the contact in under 30 seconds. "Try now," he said, stepping back. The biker thumbed the starter. The engine coughed once, then roared to life. The man stared, half impressed, half in disbelief. "You kidding me?" Eli smiled a little but stayed quiet. "How'd you even see that?" Eli stood, brushing off his knees. Just looked. The biker reached into his back pocket for his wallet. "What do I owe you?" Eli shook his head. "Nothing." He picked up his bag and turned to walk off. "Name's Eli," he added over his shoulder. "You're good now." The man called after him. "You just saved me a tow and a lecture from my crew. You sure you don't want anything?" Eli gave a half smile. "Not really into attention." "Too bad," the man muttered, watching him go. "You just earned it." And with a thunderous rumble, the bike peeled off into the sunset, trailing the kind of respect Eli had never heard in his hallways. But what he didn't know was that the man he'd helped wasn't just a biker. He was Tank, chapter captain of the Iron Faith Riders. And by morning, every engine in his crew would be rumbling toward one destination, Eli's school. The next morning started like any other. Eli walked to school with his hood up, earbuds in, shoulders hunched. He didn't expect the whispers, or the phones, or the entire front row of lockers pressed up against the windows, staring out toward the street. At first, he thought there'd been a fight, maybe a fire drill, maybe someone famous. But when he turned the corner toward the main entrance, he froze, because in the parking lot, lined up row after row, were motorcycles. Dozens of them, maybe more. Chrome gleaming under the morning sun, engines still ticking hot. Bikes of every color, shape, and roar, but all bearing the same patch on the back. Iron Faith riders. Students crowded the sidewalk, whispering. Teachers peeked out from the staff lounge. Even the school security officer looked overwhelmed. And then the sound of footsteps behind him, heavy boots on concrete. Eli turned. There he was. Tank. Same leather vest, same steely glare. But this time, he wasn't alone. He was flanked by nearly 200 riders, all silent, all staring straight at Eli. Tank stepped forward and held something out. A black vest, Eli's size. On the back, a small stitched patch. Brother Iron Faith, you helped one of us, Tank said. Now all of us got your back. Eli didn't speak. He couldn't. His throat locked. His fingers trembled. This wasn't a prank. This was real. His classmates were silent. The bullies who had shoved him into lockers just stared, eyes wide, mouths open. Even the principal walked outside and didn't know what to say. Tank stepped closer and whispered, "Word travels fast in our world. You helped, asked for nothing. That means something." Then he handed Eli the vest. "You ever need us, you know where to find us." And with that, the bikes revved, not in chaos, but in tribute. A low, thunderous symphony of loyalty. Eli didn't just stand taller that day. He became impossible to ignore. After that day, no one looked at Eli Parker the same. He still walked the same halls, still sat in the back of class, still ate lunch quietly in the library. But now, people noticed. The kids who used to laugh when his tools fell out of his bag, they nodded at him in the hallway. Some even said, "Hey," the ones who used to whisper and snicker during lunch. Now they whispered about him. "That's the kid the bikers showed up for." Even the principal pulled him aside one afternoon. "Eli, I'd love to talk to those riders sometime. Maybe they could speak to the students, talk about mentorship, second chances." Eli didn't know what to say. He hadn't done anything special. He didn't save a life. He didn't fight a fire. He just helped a man, because he could. But word had traveled, not just through the school or the town, but through the Iron Faith Riders' entire network. They weren't just some biker gang. They were a veteran-run brotherhood, mechanics, medics, former Marines and truckers, all united by a simple code. No one gets left behind. Not on the road. Not in life. And Eli? He had followed that code without even knowing it. Now, every weekend, a few of the riders would pull up to his house. They'd drop off old carburetors, busted frames, broken tools, and Eli would fix them, sometimes in silence, sometimes with Tank looking over his shoulder, giving tips like an old uncle. His hands were always greasy. His hair was still a mess. But now, he smiled more. And the kids at school? They weren't just leaving him alone. They were asking for help. One even brought a moped from his cousin's farm and asked Eli if he could fix it. Eli didn't answer. He just nodded and got to work. Because respect doesn't need noise. Sometimes it rides in quietly. On 2 wheels and chrome, it started with a knock on the garage door. Eli opened it to find Tank standing there, arms crossed, grinning. Behind him? 3 more bikes on a trailer, a big red toolbox, and a sign. Not a fancy one, just spray paint on wood. Eli's Fix-It spot. "We figured," Tank said, "if you're going to keep saving our hides, might as well have the right tools." Eli stood there, stunned. Inside that garage, once cluttered with junk and lawnmower parts, the riders helped him clear space. They mounted tool racks, set up proper lighting, rewired the old breaker so he wouldn't keep blowing fuses when the air compressor kicked in. It was slow work, but it was real. Tank stayed late that first night, showing Eli how to tune a custom intake. Another rider brought over a beat-up cafe racer for Eli to rebuild. They didn't just drop things off and leave. They taught him, trusted him, stood beside him. Word spread again, not just about the shy kid with biker friends, but about the teenage mechanic who could tune an old V-twin better than most grown men. Soon, locals were stopping by too. A single mom with a dead scooter, an old vet with a lawn tractor that hadn't run in years. Even the school janitor brought in his moped. Eli worked on them all, not for money, not for credit, just because he finally had something of his own, a space where he could build, where things made sense, a space where people saw him for what he could do, not for what he wasn't. And every time he pulled on that leather vest, the one with the words "Brother Iron Faith" stitched across the back, he remembered something Tank told him the day they first met. Helping without being asked, that's the kind of respect you don't earn. You become. Months passed. The garage was no longer a mess of parts. It was a workshop, polished, humming, alive. The kind of place where things that were broken came back to life, just like Eli. One Friday morning, the school parking lot buzzed louder than usual. Engines growled in the distance. And then, like clockwork, they arrived. A line of motorcycles, but not 200 this time, just one. Eli's, a rebuilt 1972 cafe racer. Midnight blue, engine tuned to perfection. A gift from the Iron Faith riders, rebuilt bolt by bolt with his own hands and theirs. As Eli rolled through the lot, students stepped back. Not out of fear, but respect. No one laughed, no one jeered. Even the principal tipped his head when Eli passed. He parked, pulled off his helmet, and slung his backpack over one shoulder. From across the lot, one of the boys who used to push his books onto the floor stepped forward. "Hey, I was wondering if you could look at my four-wheeler. It won't start." Eli just nodded once. "Bring it by." No grudge, no lecture. Just forward. Because that's what Eli had learned from the riders, and from the road. You don't need revenge when you've already moved on. And as he walked toward the school doors, someone whispered near the lockers, "He used to be the weird kid, right?" Another voice replied, "Nah, he's the guy with the crew." But Eli didn't hear them. He was already thinking about the next build, the next fix, the next moment where quiet kindness could speak louder than any crowd. Eli didn't help that biker for attention. He didn't do it to make a statement. He just saw someone broken down and knew how to help. And sometimes, that's all it takes. What would you have done if you saw a biker stuck on the side of the road? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more true-hearted stories of quiet heroes, second chances, and unexpected brotherhoods, right here on Stories Unfolded.